Hello, folks, and welcome to the Relationship Builder TV. I am your host, Joy, and this is my husband, Bobby. So, anyway, Bobby and I are here to talk to you about relationship issues. We do commentaries. We talk about our own relationship. We talk about other people's relationships, and we just like the idea of supporting and educating other couples who are going through struggles, or just even singles who are looking to find love. So today we've decided that we're going to talk about relationship deal breakers. Why is it that relationships aren't lasting, or why is it that I would say single people are entering relationships and it's often not going anywhere? We're talking sometimes within weeks, maybe even months, that these relationships don't even have a chance to really get up off the ground.
You know what?
So I would say, yeah. So maybe we want to talk about why relationships these days, why we feel that they're not lasting.
Well, here's the thing, right? A lot of single people go in a relationship and are still single, right? They want to still do the things that they were doing while they're still single. And I think that's a deal breaker. Say, for instance, people who get in a relationship but still want to date other people or have sex with other people, right? People who get in a relationship that are selfish and are not considering the other person, right? People that go in a relationship but just think about me, 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 right? And one of the thing is you can't go in a relationship with a single mentality, because if you go in a relationship with a single mentality, you're not even making room for the other person because it's going to be you all the time, right? So I think that's one of the things that why relationship are not lasting, because people are going in a relationship as a single person and still have that single mentality while they're in a relationship. What do you have to say for number two?
I think that goes on to, I think it just ties in with my point, what I'm thinking, which is selfishness. I think that people are often, they're making it all about them. And if you think about it, I mean, when you're going into a relationship, don't you think that you need to consider the other person? What are their needs? What are their wants? What do they need from the relationship? Not only what you need, but what they need. And I understand it goes back to being single. You've had your time for yourself. How do you now make room for another person? And I understand it can be difficult, but at the same time, if you want to be with someone else, then don't you think that you ought to give and take a little bit more, that you make room, that you allow for space for there to be errors or mistakes, and not deal breaker mistakes, but sometimes people are like, oh, well, I wanted him to do A and he didn't do A. So, I'm so done. I see people, people in groups, saying, I'm so done because of something so simple sometimes that can be easily rectified. And to me, that just boils down to being selfish, that you have to understand that if you would want something, you'd want the other person to consider you. So why do you think that it's okay for you to not consider the other person? So now, what are you thinking? What's your
And
next point?
I think the second one
No,
is,
three, because I just gave
oh, you
number
just
two, right?
okay. Number three, I think sex, right? Sex is one of those things that is a deal breaker for a relationship, and from many different reasons. One, they're that person who's not good in bed. Two, inexperienced. Three, don't have the right size to do the job. You know what I mean? And maybe four, you want more than one partners. We talk about that in one of our, one of the, we're doing a commentary for one of the shows that we watch, 90 Day Fiance, where sometimes it's that sometimes people have such a huge appetite sexually that one person is not good enough, or one sex is not good enough. They have to have both man and woman, right? So I think one of the big things that can end a relationship is sex, right? If a person is not good in bed, then that's going to affect the relationship. In some cases, if the man is not packing the right size, that can end the relationship because they can't get her there, right? And like I said, if you're a person that, if you're not even attracted to that person too, because that can tie into that as well, right? So I think sex is one of those things that can end relationship.
Okay, well, I guess one of our last points here, number four.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, number
okay, I'll
four.
give five when you wrap it up.
Okay, well, so what I'm thinking is, another thing that I think ends relationships, and I had my point and now it's slipping my mind, but I think that you know, again, it goes back to selfishness. People always want what they want. We said what people,
Single people go in a
right?
relationship being
Okay,
single,
right,
and your point was selfishness,
right,
right? I point
and
was sex, and now you're four.
I think number four is that people are feeling like they're not. No, I know what my number 4 point was. People are fearful. I think sometimes people go into relationships with the idea that
Yeah, the fear
they're
of
going
the
to be
worst.
hurt. You
Yeah, fear of the
understand?
worst. Yeah.
They want somebody and they feel like the person is not going down that path. So it's kind of like, let me hurt you before you hurt me, or let me bow out gracefully before you hurt me.
Yeah, I like what they
And
call it, dodge a bullet or something like that.
something like that. So I think that that's a really big point. A lot of people are afraid of what's going to happen. Oh, he's never gonna, you could tell he's the type of guy that, he's a player. He's not gonna ask me to marry him, or, he's gonna do this, or, he still has a relationship with his baby mother. Maybe he should if he has a child. All these things that now they say mount up to, he doesn't really care about me. He doesn't really love me. He doesn't really want me. This relationship isn't going anywhere. And all these other reasons, which to me boil down to the end of the day, it's just fear of what might happen, what they think is going to happen. So because of that, they're physically in the relationship, but then mentally they've already left. They've already vacated the space. And if they're not allowing them to fully be present and be there, then how can you build something on something you think might happen? You may say, well, I talked to him and he said this, but you know what I've learned in being in my relationship with Bobby is this,
Yep.
that sometimes, you think something's going to happen. So it's easier to run and leave before it happens because you're afraid. But I think one of the things that he taught me as we moved on, and, I'd ask him questions sometimes, is just kind of like, well, I don't know right now, but let's see. And so sometimes it takes being present, being there, being involved in it and building it one block at a time, other than, you stepped in it today and now within the next 2 weeks, 1 month, sometimes 2 months, you want to know, is he going to marry me? Are we going to do this? It's just too much going on too soon. And because you anticipate that it may not work out the way you want, you leave. And what I find happens in those cases is then that person continues to run and run and run. And then you run into that person years later and they're still single because they're probably doing it with everybody they meet because they say, well, I don't think he was going to do this, or this guy did this guy did that. And I talk about ladies often because I have conversations with women often. So the thing about it is that it's constantly, they don't know what's going to happen next. So because they don't know what's going to happen next, they run and leave that, only to realize that they don't know what's going to happen in the next one. And years later, they're still single. And maybe if they had stayed with one of those guys, could have built something, right? Could have taken a chance to see where it goes. But I understand the premise these days is, I don't want to waste my time. God, that's such a familiar saying. And you're wasting your time when you're running from one relationship to the next. Anyway, people, I think that's one of the biggest messages, is that it doesn't matter. Time is passing, whether you stay with Joe Blow and he ends up not being the one. And I understand, you should continue to pursue the things you want in life. But if you don't take a chance, how do you know? Day to day, we don't know what's going to happen, but we still continue to live life. So sometimes I feel like, don't let fear run the show. Take a chance and see where things go. Right?
Fair enough.
So we're going to go to point number 5.
And number 5. Number 5, finances, money. Now, we're living in a time where a lot of women are getting, making more money. They're getting jobs where they're getting paid more. Some women are getting paid more than men in some jobs. From entrepreneur women that are really, blowing up and making a lot of money. And it's always an issue in the relationship, especially in North America, because in North America, a woman wants to be with a man that makes more than her. And we live in a time right now where women are making more money than men. So because most of them are making more money than men, most of them are single. Because if the guy's not making as much money as her, she don't wants to be with him. There is this notion that he's going to want to hit her up for money. She's going to have to pay for everything because he's not making enough, right? And because there's this kind of, ignorance that goes with it, that to feel that if you meet a guy that doesn't make more than you, he's going to hit you up for money or want money, then you have to consider the fact, right? Some guys, believe it or not, and most guys with an old school mentality is, he doesn't care if you're making $100,000 a year and he's making 30, he's not going to ask you for money. For some guys, it's just a pride thing where if I can make money that I can pay for my own stuff and help out, I don't need you to pay for stuff for me, right? And because they have this fear, go back to kind of like what you said, they have this fear of, he's going to be hitting up for money, or I'm going to have to pay for everything, or I'm going to have to be, kind of like mother and all that kind of shit. What happened is, it tears the relationship down, because when a lot of these women are dating men that are not making enough, right away, she's like diminish him right in front of her eyes. She just looking at him like he's nothing, right? And it just boils down to what a man's worth is how much money he makes in North America. And because a man's worth is based on how much money he makes, it makes a lot of women look down on certain men and think they're not man enough because they're not making enough money. And sometimes you have to understand that sometimes a guy could be working in a warehouse. He could be a line cook, right? He could be making not a whole lot. But sometimes people are on their way to something, which meaning that they're in process. You know, he could be working on his business on the side. He could be doing something to better himself. He could be going to school, right? But because most of y'all are not sticking around for the end result, because like they say, I don't want to waste too much time. So, you know, you don't want to waste so much time. So you run off. And then, like you said, 10 years from now, they're still single. And now they're in a worse case now because they're older and now they're desperate and they're making rush decisions, right? So sometimes, you know, I know that money is important, right? But also you have to also look at the fact that what is important to you? Is it being with somebody, or is it being, you know, financially well off and single, right? And unfortunately, a lot of women in North America are going to end up dying alone with all your money that you can't take with you on the other side, but you're going to die with all your money and dying alone.
And some men too, right? Or you're talking
we're talking about
sides, right?
yeah. So realistically, the thing is, you know, I'm just having a man talking from that point of view.
Right. Same thing I do.
The point is, you know, for a lot of men too, right? What I noticed for me as a man, if I have, you know, I am well off financially, right? And, you know, I was by myself. I could date a girl who's a waitress. You know what I mean? Because my income and money does not depend on what she makes, because I'm making enough. So whatever situation I can handle it, right? Because I don't go into a relationship because a woman has money, because I feel that a woman who have money, they treat men who are not making enough like garbage. Like you're not man enough. They would pretty much, you know, diminish your role because you're not making enough money. So I think money can play a very big role and can also be a devastating blow to a Joe Blow, a Joe Blow who's not making a whole lot of money, that he has to, you know, I mean, settle for whatever. So I think sometimes, you know, women and guys who are making a lot of money, to value a person based off of what they're worth is not fair, because underneath all that, they could be a good person, right? Yeah. And far too often that get pushed off to the side, and it boils down to how much money do you make? Because if you make enough money, you could be an asshole, but I'm going to marry you anyway because you make enough money. And that's not fair, because that's why we say a lot of people are single, because you're looking for people who are making money. And sometimes these people who have a lot of money treat people like garbage because they have a lot of money. So I think, first of all,
that's not a valid reason, but anyway.
No, it's not, and that's the truth, right? So I think before you make it all be about money first, you know, what does this person bring to the table other than, does this person make me happy? Is this a person I can see my life with? Because the money issue can work itself out, right? Especially if this individual, or if you say you're a woman or a man that makes a lot of money, but you see that this guy or this girl is good at doing hair or fixing cars, and said, hey, why don't you start your own salon, or why don't you start your own barbershop, or your own shop? Let me help you, and help them build, and then that way you can build it up. Money is always a situation that can get better. It doesn't mean that a person comes in a relationship broke. It means they're going to stay broke. They can rise themselves up too.
That's true, but I've heard a lot of women say over the years, you know, that they don't want somebody they have to fix or take care of or build. They don't want to build a bear or build a man. They want a man to come ready. And listen, at this stage of our lives, right, we don't want to have to sit around and take care of someone, and I can respect that, right? So I guess, you know, what I would say in regards to that is, I guess when vetting out the, you know, the perfect or an adequate partner, you have to look at them from all angles. But I would say you still want to be willing to give and take, because just remember, and again, I speak primarily to women, that you don't come flawless, right? That you may have, you know, you may be able to take care of yourself, right? But what other aspects of you aren't on point? You have to look at those things. And, you know, it's so interesting because we don't want people to see us for our flaws, and we know we don't come flawless, but we're looking at other people as though they should be flawless. And again, if finances is the most important thing to you, then I guess you should choose a man based on that. And then if he has flaws in other areas, be willing to work with that. And if, you know, so look at what's most important to you and then work on the other aspects. But the truth is, you know, you can date someone for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and you'll still find out things about them. I've been with Bobby for over 15 years now. And just recently, you know, I found out some things about him, but it wasn't, say, bad things, just things maybe that happened when he was younger and going to school, and just got another dimension of him. And I was like, oh, that makes sense as to why you may say certain things and have another point of view on certain things. It made complete sense. But just remember that you don't know somebody in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, that you're always growing and evolving with somebody. And you have to understand there's going to be aspects of them, whether it's at the beginning or even as you move along, that may be different than what you anticipated. But relationships are about building and growing and staying together, because it's no fun, honestly, no fun to be running from one relationship to the next. The joy of being in a relationship, I really believe, and I just want to say this, and we want to be wrapping up this video, but I just want to say this, my kids are now out of the house, and those times when you really think like, I would be here alone. And I remember Bobby said to me earlier on in our relationship that your kids are going to grow up one day and they're going to leave home. And then what? And here we are, like 15 and a half years in, and they both are out of the house. And I mean, the house is quieter. We have all this space now, and there's not kids in here to fill it. And
you can walk around naked.
But really, I mean, and that's that little aspect is interesting. But it's been a little adventurous since they've been out. But the truth is that it is very good to have someone who is there with you when you wake up in the morning and you go to bed at night. I wouldn't want to have to have done this by myself, and so I thank God that he is here. And that's one of the things that I am grateful for, to have found someone to stick by me. And is Bobby perfect? Not by any means. Am I perfect? Not by any means, but I'm very grateful to have him by my side.
Yeah, and one of the good thing about having a person in your life is, those days when you're feeling ill, you're not feeling good. It's nice to know that you have somebody who can make you a cup of tea or a soup or something, ask you if you want something, run to the store, and do all the stuff that you can't do. And these are the things that people are not realizing. The benefits in a relationship is that person who got your back when you're not on your game, right? Because how many single people got hurt hard over the pandemic? You're on your own. You can't go see nobody. Nobody can see you. You can only go to grocery shopping, and you're by yourself 24/7. And that make a lot of people really look at themselves to see themselves now, because there's nobody there with you. You're only by yourself, right? So you have to consider that sometimes, when you look at it, by having somebody in your life, that can make your life either a lot better, or it can go either way. But the bottom line is, sometimes when you see the good in people and you give people a chance, sometimes what comes out at the other end is even a more harmonizing relationship. We didn't feel like earlier on back in the days that it would have lasted. She had her doubts about me. I wasn't really there, so to speak. But as time goes on, 15 years later, and I told her, I think maybe a year in the relationship, when she was on her kids all the time, and I said, what? Let the kids go play. And I told her that, I said, these kids eventually are going to grow up and they're going to leave and they're going to be by yourself, at the time when I said it. And now, like I said, 15 years later, it wasn't too long ago, a few weeks ago.
No, a week and a little bit, the last one left.
Our daughter left. And now it's just an empty house, right? So you have to consider that if you're a mother or, a father that raising kids on your own, a single parent, just realize that eventually those kids are going to leave and you can't hang on to them, especially if they're independent and they want their own space. You cannot hang on to them unless you have big kids who don't care, leaving home, and they will stay with you until they're 50. Then you're okay. But if you have a kid that's independent and wants to be on their own, you have to understand that there's going to be a time when they're going to be gone and you're going to be by yourself.
Right. So you know what? We listed some mistakes for you, and the truth about it is, or why relationships don't last. I would, urge you to really consider those and ask yourself, is that reason enough not to move forward and really get to know a person and possibly build something great? Listen, you don't know when you start watching a movie, you don't know the end until it's at the end. And the truth is it worth the risk? I say yes. Right? So folks, again, we want to thank you so much for tuning into the Relationship Builder TV. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you think. Tell us one reason why you feel that relationships these days don't last. We'd love to hear your point of view. And it's always good to hear from your point of view. I mean, we have our opinions, but we'd love to hear yours as well. All right, folks. So we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.